Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining. My name is Christine Rincon. I am the Research and Education Chair with Women in Aerospace Medicine. And this is one of hopefully a few of our research and education series. And really, what I wanted to do with that is to highlight some lesser known aspects of space medicine and get everybody together with the interdisciplinary work that I was thinking about. So with us today we have Jody Greenlaw. Is that how you say it?
Greenhall. Greenhall. That's good.
Greenhall. Okay. Well, welcome, Jody Greenhalgh. She is a pioneering occupational therapist at Stanford University Medical Center with over 40 years of clinical and leadership experience. As a board member at large with the Stanford Medicine Alliance for Disability Inclusion and Equity, she specializes in rehabilitation for individuals with spinal, head, and polytrauma injuries, as well as amputations, organ transplants, cancer, and critical illness. She designs custom orthotics, prosthetics, exoskeletons, adaptive equipment, and environmental modifications. Beyond her clinical expertise, Jody's leadership and advocacy extends to bioethics, crisis response, and first responder resilience, supporting catastrophic events, facilitating critical incident debriefings, and leading inclusive therapeutic community outreach. She championed the 911 No Wheelchair Left Behind initiative with San Mateo County EMS, establishing wheelchair and ambulance transport policy to prevent separation of patients from their wheelchairs during 911 medical crises. Jody has made history in aerospace medicine as the first occupational therapist to serve as a disability, health, safety, and accessibility officer, collaborating with Astro Access, UND, NASA, and King's College, Brunel University, with research published in Acta Astronautica. Thank you so much, Jody, for coming. And with that,
Thank
I
you.
will open the floor to you, and we
Great.
can start the conversation.
Wonderful. And thank you for inviting me. I do have to start off with my appreciation to nurses. Usually we say things that revolve around the patient. Well, I second saying it's really the nurse that the world kind of revolves around the nurse who gives 100% 24/7 care for at least patients like mine who are in a hospital. And I really appreciate the dedication and the application to, as well as being a pioneer in space nursing as well, because I really feel it's really valued to be part of the interdisciplinary team. So I really wanted to shout out to you. Chris, I am going to have you, Christine, to go ahead and help me with the slides. I do want to let people know that I do have low vision. I tend to get closer and closer to the screen. So I am a little photophobic. So sometimes it is hard for me to see what's on my computer. But I am a woman, a little older, with dark hair, green eyes, and I'm wearing, I don't know if you can see it. I'm wearing my Astro Access and NASA vest, my patches, yay, on, and I'm excited to move forward to talking about my role in space. So I'm going to go ahead and help click. Chris, can you click the next slide, please? Let's see if it'll move. There we go. So as you heard with my bio, I pretty much have three lives. I also have a fourth life of being a kayaker with the disabled. So I'm a big kayaker as well as being an OT in a hospital, OT for the first responders, and OT within aerospace medicine. I wanted to talk a bit more about really occupational therapy because I'm not sure in the audience if any of you have worked with an occupational therapist, but a lot of times we get a little bit neglected because it's a confusing word. You know, we don't get people jobs, but we do help people have success with their lives. So occupational therapy has been around actually way over 100 years, and we help those with disabilities, physical injuries, illnesses, as well as mental health, cognitive as well. So I'm going to show you some slides if we can. We're going to go ahead and just move forward a little bit because I have quite a few slides, and then we'll talk about. Yeah. So I am a big disability advocate, and you will see the thread in my slides, but we're just going to go ahead and move forward. Okay. So again, the OT is a very client-centered health profession through the lifespan. So from neonatal pediatrics to young adults to adults to elderly, we do the whole lifespan, and we help promote independence through adaptations and modifying environments such as the universal design, which was in the beginning of my slides. And we enhance quality of life to live life fully. So I just wanted to put out slides. This can be looked at later, but again, OT, not necessarily versus nurses, but in the sense of the differences of OTs and nurses in the sense of how we care for patients. We just look at it from a different frame of reference, but we all give compassion and competency to our patients. So key aspects of occupational therapy is that we really focus on activities of daily living. So it's not just the self-care, dressing, cooking, bathroom, but it's also working, playing, managing home and community life. It's very holistic. Anything an individual self-worth of what they want to do is what we're going to help work on. So if someone has had a new spinal cord injury and they need to use a wheelchair, then we will teach them how to go back home in a wheelchair to live life as fully as they can with adaptations. The holistic approach, again, is that we look at the physical, emotional, social, cognitive needs of an individual, which is very true for nursing as well. And again, reinforcing a lot of adaptive strategies where we modify routines and tasks, techniques, modify environments for different types of disabilities like neurology, ALS, stroke, autism, polytrauma, broken legs, broken arms, amputees. We do quite a bit of skill building. So a lot of times folks know OTs for fine motor skills. We also look on gross motor as well, but the eye-hand coordination, being able to be coordinated so that they're able to do tasks. And even cognitively, if they are able to manage their meds and have memory tools to help build their skills. This is also true in the sense of skill building using like prosthetics or assistive devices. So again, it's very goal-oriented. It helps individuals regain their independence. So this application can be true in any arena, like aerospace that we'll talk about in a bit. So I'm going to move forward a little bit quickly, but this is basically the OT's practitioners kind of model of promoting occupation through education, play, social ADLs, sleep, rest, health management, and work. So we're just going to go ahead and move forward. And then we also look at OTs help prevent health complications, risk mitigation. So this could be in the sense of transfers, how they move. We don't want them to fall. So fall prevention. This could be bowel and bladder. Nurses a lot of times will manage the bowel and bladder within a hospital, let's say, if someone needs catheterization, but OTs will teach the patient or the client to be as independent to do their own program. So, and we look at like dysphagia, risk mitigations, like swallowing. If someone chokes, we'll show them how to swallow using modified food, like pureed food. So again, this is we parallel with nursing regarding this as well, but it's a form of risk mitigation. Okay. All right. So I put this picture here. This is a real picture of a patient in the ICU. And I really feel like it's out of this world right here on Earth. This is an extraordinary place to be when you're very ill, and it's a very foreign environment. It's not accessible. You'll see in this picture hundreds of IVs and noise, and where is the person, right? There is a patient there. This is a transplant patient. And they wanted me to make splints. And I actually said, no. This is sometimes when we don't want to do things for quality of life. I really wanted the family to touch your hands and not take away the last form of touch communication. So I just wanted to kind of appreciate what we do here on Earth and the situations that we are, and to hope for quality of life and even quality end of life as well when we're in dire situations like this. And the next slide. So this just shares a little bit what I do as an OT in acute care. I am a trauma OT and I mentor other therapists making fabricating splints. We do a lot of reattachments. So although I do work with individuals with amputations at Stanford, we reattach them and we hope that with full recovery. So at the beginning, I make all the custom orthotics and braces and wheelchairs and support so that their limb is viable, so that it's for future use of their own limb. Okay, and then OTs are experts with adaptive equipment, AE, and these are again many different tools, built up spoon to a back brace to a walker to a wheelchair to many other tools, leg lifters, modifying environments and stuff like that. So we're experts for many different disabilities with adaptive equipment. Also part of what I do as an OT is I do workshops and I help campuses, particularly Stanford campus, and I've helped MIT where we have workshops with the community, those with disabilities, healthcare clinicians, human factor scientists, orthotists, prosthetists, robotics, mechanical and electrical engineers. We actually have a rehabilitation engineer program at Stanford as well. It's been going on for years. I'm pretty proud of it. So I'll sponsor workshops and we'll troubleshoot what needs of the client or the person would like. And then we all get together and we problem solve either for a weekend or a week or actually a whole semester to get what they need in the sense of helping them be more independent. So we had like door openers for someone in a wheelchair. We had a dog feeder for another person in a wheelchair. They wanted to be able to feed their dog and give water. So we figure out many different things, and it's a great representation of working together and collaborating together. Okay. And I wanted to emphasize universal design. OTs usually do the home assessments when someone is newly injured or ill, and they have difficulty with functional mobility getting around their home. So we'll go to their home, see if they need a ramp, if they need grab bars, if they need bath equipment, etc., so that they're safe and independent at home. And we'll work with families and architects and designers as well. I do a lot of once a year, I go to a mobile home park where I live on the coast, and I'll help clean homes and make it accessible, put grab bars up, and again, ramps and stuff if there's stairs at the mobile homes. So it's fun to give back that way. But basically, we're trying to have barrier-free homes, which goes into the next slide. Talking about universal design and the curb cut effect. So I don't know if any of you know what the curb cut effect is, but when they mandated with like ADA, American Disability Accommodations, they needed curb cuts for people that have assistive devices like walkers or wheelchairs or canine companion service dogs for the blind, so they wouldn't trip and fall into the street. But it turned out that this was an advantage for everyone. That curb cut helped grocery carts, helped strollers, it helped luggage, if you go into the airport. So it's like a win-win for universal design. And when the infrastructure has these designs, it is actually a cost reduction. Sometimes it's harder to retrograde an environment, but if you have thought how it can help everyone, having the universal design using the curb cut effect, knowing that it can help everyone is an advantage. So we're going to move forward because this will relate to the aerospace as well. I know I'm touching on quite a bit here, but I wanted to just give you appreciation of what OTs look at in the sense of medical model versus social model of disability. I do have some biases and I apologize. And I think it's because I am in trauma and I work for the first responders that I do tend to first look at medical risk and benefits, understanding maybe a medical condition is important to know, but you don't necessarily have to have a disability. But if you have a heart disease or a stent, you may need to know those precautions. If you have ALS and you have a weak diaphragm and you may need to get on a ventilator. So I tend to kind of ask these questions. And I know with aerospace screenings of ambassadors, I will ask these questions for really risk mitigation. However, I do lean heavier on social model disability, which is really looking at, it's not the person that is really limited, it's our environment that is limiting the person to have full inclusion. So that's where the universal design, if you make the environment accessible, it benefits and gives dignity to everyone. We don't have time in my talk to talk about this, but I do think most flyers don't have disabilities. I mean, it's like if we modify the environment, pretty much everyone could fly. And so I really wanted to appreciate that. Okay, I stole this slide, over the moon. Can I take a space flight? This was Dr. Gifford and I were at a workshop, and I saw this slide, and I just thought that was perfect. Yes, I think anyone can take a flight. Okay, so let's move forward. So, so here I was asked to be the Disability Health Safety Officer for quite a few agencies and to champion success of those with disabilities and modify environments within the space industry. So we're going to move forward. Let's see. Okay. So I do have a motto, a space for all is my OT motto to help others live life fully without barriers or limitations by way of accommodations and universal design for optimal independence, freedom, and inclusion on any earthly and terrestrial terrain. So this is me at NASA. And I have to be careful because I know this is recorded, but at times organizations could be the barrier, not the environment. Just wanted to let you know that. Okay, let's move forward. Let's see. Okay, this is the occupational frame of reference. We're going to go ahead and skip this so that we can get to the juicy part of the slides. Okay, so gosh, I think it's been 5 years now. I was kind of recruited to this new nonprofit, Astro Access. I'm hoping those who are in the audience are familiar with Astro Access, which is dedicating to advanced disability inclusion in space exploration for the benefit of all humankind. And we started doing a zero-G gravity flights. And we had a huge interdisciplinary team. And we interviewed quite a few ambassadors so that they can fly. And we've had, I think, 7 or 8 flights. 2 that we pretty much did with all of us with a zero-G plane. And then 5 were partnering with other zero-G planes. So you will see some pictures here. It's kind of we're good. You're going to be seeing a lot of pictures. So this is one of our patches that is very inclusive. I just wanted to share our patch. We even had long dialogues about our patch to signify disability and that it's global and that it has Braille on it as well. And it's contrast color. So with low vision, and it includes mobility, sign, even I can't quite see this, blind, hearing impaired, neurodiverse. So this is great patch. Okay. Okay. And this is John Kemp. Okay, I'm just going to pass through some slides. So as the OT here, I use the same principles, like I said, like for home accessibility, can they get into their front door? And so that was my question even before we got to like the Johnson Space Centers, can they get to the front door of the plane? And of all our flights, we kept saying, we really need a ramp. And they had a ramp, a very long one on one of the first flights, but all the other ramps were either not available on the tarmacs or they got blown over because of the wind. So then we said, are there lifts? And this is where I became strong OT when I said, I need to see this before we go up. And it was very late at night. You can see how late it is here on this first slide, because I was adamant to see if we can get up to the plane, and we couldn't. It was a very wobbly food cart to get up to another cart. This is not even the door of the plane. This is the door of another food truck. So, so we all went to Home Depot. We got a lot of extra wood, and sure enough, the next slide, you will see me and the crew start building railing, even for OSHA standards, if you're familiar with OSHA, because someone with prosthetics or in a wheelchair, that would literally fall over this ramp. So here we are under the gun, building a ramp to have access to this truck. And this truck then goes to the plane, the zero-G plane. And here we are. You can kind of see this is a very clear space, but I wanted to show you how we made it in, and with a lot of modifications to get the crew in. And here's the truck that we got people in. Okay. Okay. So also, as an OT who knows how to modify clothing for sometimes people can't zip, or flight suits are kind of like onesies. So we were really fortunate to be able to get a lot of flight suits. We were able to cut them and modify them for each of our ambassadors for their unique needs. So we had Velcro and hooks and leg straps and magnet inserts and catheter access and pockets for iPads. And we had an individual that was neurodiverse. We padded her flight suit so that she wouldn't hurt herself. We also were privileged to get thermoregulation undergarments, basically underwear, which is right here. Miki's wearing this. And here's Sheila wearing her flight suit over the underwear. And that really helped. We'd love to do a little more research with this undergarments, because it can really reduce them feeling nauseous and regulates the temperature if they get over hot or over cold. We also, as an OT, really wanted them to see if they were independent, being able to take on and off their own clothing. So here is some of our ambassadors. This is Katie. She's actually an astronaut, but you can see how we modified Miki's, and we put a little waistband on her. She was practicing here in a hotel, and then here she's in the zero-G plane, where we stabilize her pelvis. Michi's spinal cord paraplegic, and she was able to free up her arms to be really independent, being able to do tasks, which is great with this stability. And you can see this other gentleman too is doing the same. So here we are modifying. Let me just go back. Okay, this is Mary. Whoops, sorry about that. I'm probably hitting at the same time. So we had ambassadors who had 1 limb, 2 limb, and 4 limb amputated limbs. All of them had been wearing prosthetics. We asked if they can take off, particularly their leg prosthetics, so that we felt that they can transfer and egress, ingress the plane faster, maybe with or without their prosthetics. But what we realized is that these could be projectiles, so that we also had to make sure that they got anchored down when they took them off, so they didn't fly in hyper G and hurt someone. So that was very interesting. But you can see we modified the flight suits here we cut off the limb here so that she can try her different limbs. This is Cece and Katie. Cece is also paraplegic. She did so many navigating. You can see this little, I don't know if I can even see it. She's holding onto a tether, and there's hooks and handholds, and she was able to navigate really well and just really enjoying herself. Miki as well. She has a leg straps that also helped her legs not fly away, and she had full control. This is Dana. Dana is a NASA engineer with Katie, and Katie actually wanted to help Dana, and Dana, from what I gather, said, nope, I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to do it. And she was able to navigate, and she was able to actually resit in her chair in a seat in the plane, was able to get down and using her armpit. So if she couldn't use her hooks, but she used all these handholds to stabilize herself. And you can see we modified her flight suit as well. And you can see we put the harness on the outside. So again, then we looked at, gross motor, mobility, navigation, speed, and joint torque. So we did a lot of land practice with or without prosthetics. This is Mary. I think this is Dwayne here and John. And you can see they're trying to do targeting and speed with and without prosthetics. And then this, they haven't flown yet, but basically they are hugging each other. And they were just as fast from getting in the plane, getting their seats as those able-bodied folks. They egress really well, particularly Dwayne when he put on his shoulder prosthetics. Quite a milestone. We did have some mandates that we really needed to try. We felt strongly that people had to buckle in 5-point restraints to be secure, because when in space you really make sure you're buckled in. And Eric was successful buckling in a very timely manner. We also did this with those who are blind, being able to feel it and also buckle in a timely manner. And then with my emphasis being an OT, I really wanted to make sure transferring with gravity and without gravity was possible without using good body mechanics and being able to be efficient getting in and out, because we did have to wheel the wheelchairs away during flight. So so you can see that Eric is doing great being able to transfer without avoiding injury. And again, here's John with his upper extremity prosthetics trying to buckle in, and he was quite successful. And we're just enjoying ourselves. The other part is we did a little bit of cognitive concentration testing as well. It is very noisy, and we wanted to make sure that people felt clear and they can give instructions and communications to others, which goes into hopefully in the next slide. I'm hoping I didn't skip it, but let's see the next slide. So for those of our ambassadors with low vision, blind, and deaf, it was really important that we used alternative communication. And this alternative communication actually was incredible universal communication. For example, we use hepatic lighting systems and tactile systems, so that when the ambassadors needed to lie down quickly when it became hyper G, it was really important that they had to lie down quickly. And so by using red light, green light, yellow, like lighting, hepatic on their wrist, navigation, I don't know if I can point that they're reading where they are going, forward, up, and down, so they knew where the front end of the plane and the back end, and up, down when they're upside down. And then using universal sign language, American Sign, was very, very helpful because of the noise in the cabin. That it was very successful in the sense of communicating to the whole group, and it helped everyone, including the crew. Okay. So this is just, I put the wow factor. At least I think you might have put the wow factor in for me. But this is the group with different disabilities. But you can kind of see how simple, low tech we are. There's Velcro right there. Jody loves Velcro on almost everything, or duct tape. And this was able to help those navigate. If the top, bottom, it had different textures. And you can see there's more on the bottom than the top. And then it changed from forward to back. So Apuva, Mona, and okay. And then I, as an OT, was also part of the ADA logistics, because some of our flights have been in America, American Disability Accommodations. Basically, I was part of the logistics, making sure that we had equipment, making sure that there was shower chairs and wheelchairs for our ambassadors, that the hotel rooms had accommodations, because some of them did not. And so we had one of our physicians have to check out another hotel to make sure that they had some accommodations, because one hotel was only accessible on the second floor without an elevator. We also had to look at accessible transportation. Can we get buses and cars that were accessible to the tarmac and to the space stations? Had quite a few of our flights were during COVID. So it was really important that we did have supplies and PPEs. However, PPEs, as you know, were hard to come by, and it was even harder to come by clear masks. So I know Dr. Gifford and I, we donated a lot of masks because we really wanted to be able to read and see people's expressions if we had to wear masks, because if you cover your face, you're covering communication. So we take communication for granted. And of course, bathrooms. We wanted an accessible bathroom on the tarmac. It wasn't just the hotel that we needed because we wanted most of our ambassadors and crew, we asked to have them use the restroom before they got on the flight because you couldn't pull over the plane to use the bathroom. And this is also true in NASA. This is actually a picture of NASA with one of their potty rooms. This is where I was talking about earlier of risk mitigation, being understanding consequences of those with disabilities may have a medical issue. Autonomic dysreflexia is definitely a concern for those with spinal cord injuries where their bladder fills up and overfills, and it can increase your blood pressure, which can lead to even a stroke or a heart attack. So it was very important that we did have a conversation with our ambassadors. Their own primary physician obviously had to clear them, and then we discussed having a bowel and bladder routine before they got on a flight. And then this is managed differently with people from outside the country. Some B&B care is not done by catheters. It's done by sensation. And so we have to make sure that it's safe. So, and then of course, adapting. Okay. And I'm just passing this. This is some of the research papers we've done about the medical operations. This is physiatry and space flights. That's the article or that was written. Okay, so here is the next leap of faith. I got a call to help out NASA and University of North Dakota regarding simulations in space vessels within NASA Johnson Center. We did 2 different versions of space vessels. Some of it I can share, some of it I can't. You will notice a little bit in the background. The vessels are really tight. I'll be showing you that the space capsules, and the study was with leg amputations, and we had selected quite a few vets from Texas that were bilateral leg amputations. And we looked at, can they get in and out the space vessel? Can they modify the kind of look at the spacesuits and then achieve tasks like buckle in, simulate being able to do the controls? However, what was interesting during this study, 2 interesting things that when I got there was they hadn't done any vetting. So they really didn't know. The vets were really excited to participate. However, all the vets with sidebar conversations with them all had comorbidities. All of them had shrapnel in them. One had cancer. Several had concussions, one with a significant head injury. Several had rotator cuff injuries. They couldn't lift up their arms. So this is where I did ask, like, who was the flight surgeon there within NASA to make sure that we had a point person, because I am not a flight surgeon, and that we had an EMT as well for safety, even though I helped if I needed to get them in and out. The second thing that was interesting is that when I was at NASA, is that they didn't want the prosthetics to come off, that it was really important that they wanted to keep it on, and but they didn't want anything moved within the space vessel, meaning it's millions of dollars being in a spacecraft, and we couldn't hold and reach certain things because we don't want to break that spacecraft. However, the mandates of pushing a prosthetic limb beyond its range of motion could very well break a prosthetic, which is $150,000. So, and also because it's such a tight quarters, it's like, do they really need their prosthetics? And for me, it's like, sometimes we don't need equipment. Maybe it's an advantage to have them come off. Kind of what we showed in the 0G flights is like, do they really need it all the time? But they didn't want them to take it off. However, as the slides go on, you'll see why I ended up sidebarring and having to take them off. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. Thanks, Christine. Here, this is a space glove. I have been asked to give input about space gloves. A lot of them are very, very bulky, and it's a strain on their digits. Just a little FYI, there needs to be a lot more research with gloves for dexterity and get sensory feedback, because even in a person who doesn't have like paralysis or numbness, it's really hard feedback because there's so much layering. So I have provided feedback in other side groups about how we can use some of the robotic feedback loops that we use with microelectrode components for prosthetics into gloves so that there's more human system interaction, particularly to be more efficient to do a task, but also reduce injuries of their finger digits and wounds. A lot of astronauts have lost their fingernails. Same thing with flight spacesuits. University of North Dakota has a spacesuit program, and we were able to share to give input. There's a lot of layering because radiation is really the biggest thing and having oxygen. So by the time you get the person in, the spacesuits are super heavy and very big. And again, I don't know if you know, the women astronauts were wearing men's generic spacesuits. So even astronauts who are going up to space now, they're not as customized. It's very expensive to make spacesuits. And so modular ideas that came out of Astro Access and then myself and looking at different spacesuits is being able to have really articulated joints with good seals. But there is injuries with spacesuits as well, a lot of knee stress. Okay, so this is just pictures of going into the space capsules. You can see how tight it is. There's a lot of storage. There's limited space, real estate. But here it is. You can see that he's really trying to get his prosthetic in. Now, we did ask NASA if they can go in their way. NASA really wanted them to go the typical way Top Gun person goes in, I guess. And I'm really glad that those with disabilities advocated for themselves. I feel like I'm kind of their guider. They really drove it, and they said, look, we can get in just as fast if you let us go in a little differently. The person with the two-limb prosthetics had a very wide base of support, and so she really had to stabilize a little bit more, but they were very, very agile, and timing to get in and out was extraordinary. They showed that they can do it. So you can see me, I'm actually right here. This is my duct tape with prosthetics because it was slipping off. But you can see I was actually right here at the point person helping, making sure they got in safely without disrupting any of these other handholds. We were trying to put in other handholds and they literally had to swing in to sit in here. Okay. You can see we're having them strap in. We asked if we can change the foot plate instead of changing them. Or, they need this to stabilize that's why they really wanted the prosthetic on. But I do believe that the foot plate could be anchored to the stump. But you can see how much clutter there is. Okay, and again, can they buckle in? And then there's a lot of panel up here. It's hard to see. There's a panel. Okay, this is when I had a sneak over to near a bathroom. So several of our folks were getting pressure sores. They were wearing their prosthetics all day and they were really torquing their prosthetic. And one of them had to get adjusted. So I helped adjust the prosthetic with them using NASA tools. Hopefully they don't mind. And we did skin checks. Of course, there wasn't swelling. It was more just the torque and anchor points. So we had them relieve pressure. So it's kind of like a weight shift that nurses do in beds, every 2 hours. And here are the group that I was with. I want to thank them. They were amazing. Okay, so with time, let me see, it's 4:46. I'm going to just scoot along because I, as an OT, have been called to help other organizations, not just in space. So we're just moving along. I've been helping All Wheels Up, which is helping the disabled go into planes. As you know, 80% of folks get injured or their wheelchairs get damaged because they're forced to get out of their wheelchair and the wheelchair's underneath the plane and they have a hard time transferring. So there's research that's letting wheelchairs go into planes. So this is me just speaking this year about it. And I also went to Aerobility, which is in the UK. This is actually adaptive pilot program with folks with disabilities, and I helped modify their hand controls. And I actually had the honor to actually fly in a simulator, even with my low vision and wearing a hand splint because I actually hurt my hand. But here I am. So it's providing anyone with any disability access to the magic. And here I was going over the English Channel. I did not crash. So we modify everything. So it was fun to be part of that as an OT. So I'm also been helping out the FLY program, the ESA. It had been called the Para-Astronaut Program. And this is Dr. John McFall. Dr. John McFall is a above knee amputee. He's also a Paralympian. There he is. He is an official astronaut. He hopefully will go to the space station soon. And he's done a lot of research. He was at NASA either the week before or the week after I was there. And I was able to talk to one of his leads, and we spoke on the phone. Um, great doctor. So I'm also been helping out Space for All and King's College, and as a vibrant community of many folks with disabilities, and they wanted to investigate inclusiveness in space. And so I've been doing a lot of online with them, a lot of Zoom calls, and I ended up going last year and helping out with one of the workshops, and it was just delightful. And a lot of new innovation ideas came out, and here we are. Lots of good suggestions for the FLY program. I've also helped out Sean Canal for Space for Everybody, Brunel University, and consulted with mechanical engineering, robotics, a lot of physiology. They did have a rehab department, but they lewd on me instead of their own OTs there. And from what I understand, there is a nursing program there, and I would have loved to meet the nursing space nurses there. We did also talk about nuclear medicine and radiation. And then I had the honor to be part of the Alternative Limb Project, looking at prosthetics and robotics in a different way. One of our Astro Access ambassadors works with them, and I had the honor to meet with Sophie, and the profound work with prosthetics. Okay, let me see if I can. Yep, and you can see all these incredible, it doesn't have to be medical, right? So, and this is Victoria. She's one of our ambassadors, and she's with the Alternate Limb Project. And I don't know if you can see the different little kind of prosthetic limbs here. And then we actually did a magnet here. We used her magnet on her prosthetic, as well as put a magnet on and docked her with another person. So we did some stability stuff using her magnets. That was a lot of fun. So coming back to Earth, Lisa, Shana, they're online here. Here we are. We go to a lot of workshops. This is right near my backyard, near NASA Ames, because I'm in San Francisco area. So a lot of our ambassadors with Astro Access in particular have done analogs. In Poland, and Eric like in the water, and here we have I can't see yet. She's blind, doing an analog, navigating. Yeah, is that Sherry? It's hard for me to see. Next one. We just recently in the fall went to the International Astronautical Congress, and we met with the United Nations, and we met new people, new connections, saying access for all, and really networking. And here we are, a group of us spoke. And this is Dr. Gifford's on. We're trying to do more publishing. Let's see. This is again thanking Dwayne, Shana, Zach. Very appreciative to the team, right? It's very important to appreciate your team. And what was really exciting is Michaela was successful flying in Blue Origin, which is really exciting. This was in December. And she just was recently part of the Paralympics as well, being a keynote. And we definitely still have feedback, how to get into the spaceships. And again, I wanted to put closure to this. We believe aviation inspires achievement and endless possibilities for all of us. So I'd like to end here, and hopefully we can get some few discussions, questions, dialogue, because I'm kind of doing most of the talking.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
if anybody has, let me jump in the chat and see if anybody has a question. But I actually wanted to ask you a question.
Mhm.
Um, do you think, because I know that areas like the International Space Station are really noisy. So do you have you worked with or have heard of anything to help people that are more sensitive to their surroundings, like sound and vibration and things like that? Do you help them handle that sensory overload so they don't have any issues?
Yeah, well, noise canceling definitely helps. That was a huge issue with the zero G flight. And I don't know if anyone wants to pipe in that. Shana, you've been on the flights where it's really noisy. And this was true for everyone, not just the neurodiverse, to be honest. It was very overwhelming. So you have someone with low vision now can't hear because of the noise. So they definitely tried noise canceling. One of them, they did research with Sonic. I'm trying to remember Sonic Ear. I'm trying to remember the brand that they practiced to help deaden or lessen the noise as well. And I felt like that was successful. But for sure, the alternative communication, a lot of signing, a lot of lighting, um, was really important as an alternative communication. But the noise was an issue. And that's why on one of the splice suits, we put padding. If someone got overwhelmed and needed to tap themselves, they can tap themselves. And like I said, wear noise canceling headphones. And there are many brands out there now as well that needs to be more researched. Yeah, over time you get a lot. Is it tetanus? How do you say the word when you get ringing in the ears because of the noise, which can also go into vertigo, which can go into getting nauseous. Um,
The tinnitus, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What's interesting is, as you know, is there's been research years ago about the Galileo study with all of them that were deaf, none of them had vertigo. So it's an advantage in some sense to have being hearing impaired, or might be an advantage not having limbs. You're not going to have the fluid overload. This is where now I'm going to the medical side of things. For me, I have very low vision. That would put way too much pressure on my eyes. They lose vision very quickly. They go through a lot of glasses, the astronauts. And there's a lot of fluid pressure into the head because you don't have gravity. So it'd be interesting if what questions medically to ask in the sense of those with leg amputations. Maybe they may not have a fluid overload exchange as much as someone who has further legs and going into their head. There's a lot of interesting medical questions. But that's a
That
good
is true.
question,
That's exactly what I was thinking about. That there how much of that is now not an issue, or at least maybe not as much fluid going,
right?
fluid shift.
And to be honest, I
Um,
mean, I don't want to speak to my buddies, but I really felt like those with disabilities drove it. And as an OT, as an ally, I was guiding it. But most of them felt that they didn't feel disabled. That's the universal design, or not having gravity. They were like Eric was able to walk. It felt like they were much more capable. And this is true with my experiences being a disabled kayaker. Same feeling. Get out of the wheelchair, get on the water, and just feel really fluid and free. And that's really what it is being able to be included and free, and everyone is capable, and everyone has something to bring to the plate. Those with disabilities have a lot of creativity. They're problem solvers. I know I tend to be very creative and problem solver too, but man, if my patient can take over for my job, which is great because then they can have a full life and figure it out. But we should all have the chance. Good questions.
I think that's great.
Anyone else?
That Yes, anybody feel free to jump in. I know that definitely with my help. Oh, here we go. Here's a good question right here. Lisa,
I think yeah.
would you explain the aha moment with the clear masks and lip reading individuals?
To me or to anyone in the audience, because I'm trying to see.
Yeah, she tagged you, so she's asking you.
Oh, 'cause I can't read anything. Well, since I was the first one on the plane, the last one off, but I didn't fly. Just basic communication and courtesy was really important. I do know that we did at moments we gave choices to take it off because safety was number one. So quite a few of them did take their masks off because they were steaming up so much. So I don't know if that's my aha, but I think the biggest thing is communication. I have more ahas to having a clear mask at the hospital where I work. We have so many PPEs, but we forget to ask if the patient could see what we're saying to them and vice versa, because we look at facial expressions a lot. And same thing with low vision. For me, I get close, I may touch to see my environment. So I do think the clear mass is everywhere, to be honest, is my aha. But that's a good question. I think John, are you on? You're an OT, assistive technology expert. John, do you have
Hey,
anything to
Jody.
add?
I
Hey,
did. I just
John,
joined. Thanks. What
any
was the question?
any thoughts, any feedback? You're with Astro Access
Yeah.
extraordinaire.
Um, yeah, I joined late, unfortunately. Sorry, I missed the earlier part. I was in another meeting, but yeah, you just mentioned what Eric had said, Eric Ingram, and I thought that was really a powerful uh experience that he shared of just being able to weight bear, getting out of his wheelchair uh, in the lunar gravity, and just taking that to the next step, and looking at the opportunities for folks with disabilities, in these lower gravity situations, environments. It's kind of exciting to think about and what that could mean for mobility and functionality.
Yes, yes. Very good. Is Shayna Gifford on at all as well? She has been on many flights. She also did a year-long analog mission in Hawaii, and has had a lot of good insights, being the flight surgeon on, as well as her own research with doing X-rays. So shout out to her in the sense of doing clear X-rays in a zero-G planes, which is amazing. Um, so I'd love to have had her add her insights as well. Chris, do
I
you
think
mind?
she did. Yeah. Mhm.
She jumped off. Do you think you can get to
Yes.
the next slide? There's a slide just
Sure.
because I had some pondering and
Sure.
I
Sure.
wanted you guys to see my ponders. Because I've been a therapist over 40 years, and then my experiences with um, aerospace, and I've been revisiting my own ethics, right? My own morals and scope of practice. Um, and so I feel these are my reflections. Perseverance in disability, humanity, justice in any space is imperative for full inclusion, accessibility, and dignity. I feel like we need to get grounded to take action in productive, positive fashion from restrictive to expansiveness of spaces on Earth and up in the skies. Yeah, sometimes people want to take ownership. Sometimes we'll see a physician kind of take ownership, but we should be all at equal playing field, or those with disabilities really need to have a voice, or my patients they're the CEO of their care and we're guiders. So I really believe in collaborating, partnering together. I know I am the human factor person, but I would definitely need an engineer person, right? Or you need the scientists. We need to pull all of us together, and we definitely need a nursing as well to really get the right players. Again, my ethos is to empower any person with a disability to be in the driver's seat or the flyer seat, and me as the ally guider, adapter, and innovator. And then this work challenges traditional assumptions about disability and capability, demonstrating accessibility and participation are achievable in any environment. I put down extreme environments, but we should all have the opportunity to be at the table. That we shouldn't be assumed that we can't do. We should be assumed that we can do and we have something to offer. Um, yeah. With that, any
Awesome. Thank
other
you.
reflections or ponderings out there?
I wanted to ask you, just because it's amazing. Me as somebody that's coming in from like the outside, I'm always like amazed at other like providers that are able to like work with NASA and work in the space industry. So, do you have any like advice for anybody that's trying to like get into? I know you laugh, but it looks like you've been working with a lot of space organizations, so I wonder how what tips do
Yeah,
you have for anybody that's trying to also do
yeah.
that?
It's just really you just have to be out there. I'm a pretty, as Shana knows, I'm a a shy person. I'm a chatty introvert, so I'm really outside my comfort zone. But I do take leadership when I need to say, hey, this is possible, and let's just do something a different way. Or how I've been called very under the gun all of a sudden. Like NASA quickly realized they did a study that was no one was disabled, and they wrote up a research project and realized they had no one who was licensed clinician, practitioner, no, like, yeah, it was very interesting. So it was that week I got called to be part of it. And I actually spoke to Shayna and I said, I really want to make sure that there's a flight surgeon there and that they know that this is happening and that I'll be there. And it took a couple of days for me to really speak up because NASA made assumptions that they had to be like the right stuff and they had to do it a certain way. And I'm like, look, listen to these, to the vets. They're going to come in and give you ideas. This is an opportunity. And also we need oversight. And like I say, when I found out a lot of them had comorbidities, it's really important that we need to be part of this, but there is a lot of silos at this point. And I think because of my observation is NASA has been government run for a long time. It's very internalized. And then you have these private industry that's coming out, Blue Origin, SpaceX. It's amazing because of this private industry, we're pushing farther. People are having millions of dollars to say, fly me, right? Like, so now we're at risk of like anyone can get hurt, right? So have the infrastructure now. We had an astronaut go blind with chemical spill in the mask. It's like this could help everything if we look at inclusive design and ask these questions now. So it's partnering with these agencies without feeling, I don't know how to say it, possessive of that one, agency. Like there's OSMED, there's all these new kind of nonprofits that are pulling together, even WAM, to be able to pool resources together so that we are working together and collaborating versus being in silos. There's still a lot of silos. People don't know what an OT is. They don't know. It's just word of mouth how I get involved. I haven't really been paid. I've been paid flight and hotel, which is lovely with NASA. But the ones that when I confer, I'm usually out of the great kindness of my heart, right? We all give, but at some point we need to be a part of those research projects that this is the team. The nurses need to be part of it. OTs need to be part of it. Flight surgeons, it doesn't have to be just medical. You obviously need those with disabilities need to be part of it. You need the right people and we can't have people make assumptions what those with disabilities needs or make assumptions with universal design. A lot of spaceships are white, right? Because the background is dark, right? And yet I'm photophobic and I go blind with white. So you being able to have like colors and so that you can really navigate in textures. And so you need these players who have expertise in understanding how to modify things for many different ways. So all I can say is that we need to be out there. I'm not very good at it. There's definitely people who are better at it than I am. I do know that I have gotten called by private industries. It's lovely to get called, and they're for autonomous vehicles. So right now I'm being called because I live near Silicon Valley. They're calling me on autonomous air vehicles and cars, strapping like the disabled getting into an autonomous helicopter or autonomous car or autonomous that goes up. It's really wild what I've been called for. And I usually gather people from Stanford or even Astro Access people in the disabled community to be part of it so that I'm not just also leading it. I don't want my own biases. So it's inclusive. And so these new research projects with a lot of these autonomous air vehicles is kind of where I'm getting connected. And maybe I should also say nursing as well, because obviously if someone gets hurt or they need to, they're in, a fast moving car that's all of a sudden in the air, can they do their diabetic? Can they, it's really important to have the right players, but it'd be great to have a pot of a lot of us like group together to say, hey, who can we pool so that we're working together versus competitive and not. I don't know if that answers your question. I'm still learning my way for sure. And I'm really honored to
It
be
does
part of
answer my
it.
question. Yeah. Yeah,
It's
I agree with that. That there has to be an interdisciplinary thing and we have to break the silos.
totally,
So I agree with that.
yeah. And we see this in the hospitals too. It's like we gotta be open. And I'm a hippie from the hippie days. I'm one of these like we gotta work together, peace, love, you know. um, but yeah, and we need to hook up with a lot of those who have monies. I mean, it's really hard to research, it's really hard to fund, but it behooves us to fund it ahead of time. Changing an infrastructure, remodeling something after, it will go broke. But if we start asking these questions now, and include universal design and include these questions from our frame of references, I think it's a win-win for all of us.
Definitely. So thank you so much.
You're
I
so
guess I'll
welcome.
stop recording now. But to everybody that was here, thank you for coming and for the questions and for being part of this launch of the Research and Education Series. So my goal is to continue to bring these like clinical perspectives that maybe we haven't heard. So keep an eye out for our next session. Thank you so much, Jody, for coming.
Sure. I know it was a lot. Hopefully it wasn't too much. I'm too enthusiastic.
No, it was amazing. It was amazing. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a
Thank you
good
so
night.
much. Bye.
Stop sharing. Stop
Thank you so
recording.
much, Christine. I'll stay on for a little bit
Thank
and I'll
you. Yes.